Alright, hey guys, welcome back for another deck tech. This week we're going to try and do Bant Exalted. I mean, there's only like 10 Exalted cards, but we'll try and make it work. So I said this one was in honor of Tom Mega Beast Downey, and it is. I remember seeing him play his Bant Exalted list against Hakeem in one of his videos. And I looked at his list, and there was just a lot of crazy beefy creatures in it too, like Terra Stompers, Palaka Worms, Soul of Ravnica, and all that. But I didn't want to go that route. This is basically a base white deck, splashing blue for Rhox Warmonk and Rafiq of the Many, and then also a heavier splash of green for those same 4 cards, and some other cards we'll get to in a minute. So I'll do a quick rundown of the cards actually in the deck before I start explaining why I did what I did. We got 4 Akrasan Squires, 1/1 Exalteds for 1. 4 God's Willing, because if you're going to be running Exalted, you're only going to be swinging with 1 creature at a time, and you want to be protecting them, or just force a damage through, and the Scry one's nice. And also, this deck does play Banisher Priests, so another way to protect them from nonsense. And some other stuff, as you'll see. There's a lot of other combos with it. 3 Sigiled Paladins. The other Exalted guys in the deck, besides the Rafiq and the Battlegrace Angels. 2/2 First Strike Exalted. The First Strike is great because usually your Exalted guys are shit on defense, but this dude's actually pretty decent on defense, especially if you get 2 of them just sitting back. That's 4 power of First Strike that someone will have to fight through. So you got to be cognizant of getting 2 for 1 and they kill one of your guys, and then you lose the other guy in combat. 1 Reprisal. One's nice. I don't want to run 2. Like I said, we have Banisher Priests to get rid of other big stuff, and other ways, as you'll see later on. But, a lot of people run all 3, and I think that's nuts. You can get away with 2. I just like to run 1. 4 Knight of the Skyward Eye. Now, I know a lot of people think it's oh, look at that shitbag Grizzly Bear. But, he gives himself a giant growth every turn for 4 mana, but doesn't cost you a card. So, it gives you something to do with your mana later in the game. It is threatening. It's like a poor man's True Fire Paladin, with a little bit easier on the mana requirements. And, he's a 2-drop, which something, white doesn't really have a whole lot of. I mean, if you didn't want to play them, you can swap these out for 4 Squadron Hawks, but I kind of like the upside on this guy, especially since we're already playing green. We got 1 Brimaz. I mean, if you're playing a mostly white deck and you're not playing this guy, 99% of the time, it's just, what are you doing? I can see leaving him out of like a black-white life gain deck, something like that, or a Seance deck. He doesn't really belong there. But in any kind of white deck that wants to be attacking, and he should be in there. I mean, just look at him. I mean, whether or not he's an actual lion or just a sexually adventurous dude who likes to wear animal masks, Brimaz is coming for that ass. So don't leave him without him. 2 Mentor of the Meeks. Like I said, we're playing base white. You usually see him in most white lists. Don't really have any form of card draw outside of him. Like I said, we're not going to run Think Twices or anything like that. We want to keep the mana good. We don't want to just make a straight 3-color deck with need blue here, double green here, blah 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 blah. Have to play 7,000 tap lands. But I'll get into more detail. I think about a little over 5/8 of the creatures trigger off him, so that's pretty good. You got 3 Banisher Priests. Like I said, I think if you're playing a deck with God's Willing, the drawback of this lady getting removed, you're protected from that a little bit. And it's just, not hard removal, but it is, it's removal. You got 2 Arrests, another, removal in white. Shuts down anything. Actually shuts down Monstrous on things like Arbor Colossus. So that's something to keep in mind. But it's activated ability, not trigger. So activated, anything with a colon afterwards. That's not him. That's a triggered ability. But if you arrest this guy, Like Knight of Skyward, I would not be able to activate that. And why would that come into play? Like, I don't know, maybe you activate his ability and then prey upon something. And then, this thing's already arrested, and so it would be less of a blowout, if they removed it in response. But if this thing does have something like this, does have an arrest on it, you can't activate that ability, so you're less likely to get any uses out of it. Doesn't come up too often, but you never know. One Baneslayer Angel. A white deck wants to be attacking, mostly white, 24 lands. Why the hell not? 2 Battlegrace Angels. Hey, look, it has Exalted, and whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gains lifelink until end of turn. We have 1 Panic Cleansing. I'm surprised this thing doesn't have any flavor text. Like, you'd think they'd have something to say about all these people getting raptured, or whatever the hell's going on there. But I guess you just leave it up to your imagination. Now this card, like, I've been flip-flopping around on. It used to be a Righteous Blow, it used to be the 3rd Arrest, it used to be the 2nd Reprisal. But, I wanted a 1 of Panic reset button in the deck, because aside from this, nothing in this deck can deal with the Resolve Stormbreath Dragon. You can try and race it, but you can never actually get rid of it. So, a 1 of Rare to deal with a 1 of Mythic, but this thing is also good in a lot of other situations. Doesn't really have synergy with much of your deck because you usually want to build a board presence. You're not looking to wipe it all away, but that's why it's called Panic Cleansing. 2 Prey Upons, 2 Hunter's Prowess, 3 Rhox War Monks, 1 Rafiq of the Many, 24 lands, 12 plains, 1 island, 5 forests, 3 Seaside Citadel, 1 Azorious Guildgate, 2 Selesnya Guildgate. You see it's only 6 of the 24 lands coming to play tapped. I like to, hover around that 25 to 33% range of tap lands. Because, a lot of times also in this deck, you want to be able to play something and hold up God's Willing. And if you're sitting on like 8 to 12 to 16 tap lands, and I've seen some wild lists out there. You're not going to be able to do shit like that. So anyways, let's get to the specifics. We got the Squires because, we want to build a Bant Exalted deck. It has Exalted. Enough said. Plays real shitty defense. But, play this on turn 1, you're swinging for at least 2 on turn 2. You can always live the dream, go Squire into double Squire, and you're swinging for 4 on turn 2. Or, Squire into Paladin, swinging for 3. You get this bad boy out on turn 1 with, 12 planes is highly likely, fairly likely, having this and a planes in your opening hand. Then you start putting the pressure on right away. 4 God's Willing, want to protect your creatures, use the force through damage. A lot of times, when you have your Exalted crew out, even though there's only 10 of them, when you have them out, you want to, don't get blown out by having your creature removed, like before the Exalted triggers resolve. It'd be pretty bad, you basically just lost your entire combat step. So, you can use it to protect that. Any of your other creatures, protecting a Banisher Priest is a pretty big deal. Sometimes you can force through damage with it. Like we have the Hunter's Prowess, that's 6 mana. Give your dude protection from whatever, then drop the Hunter's Prowess, and draw 3,000 cards. And also, if you're desperate, and you think the coast is clear, you can God's Willing one of your dudes, and then Prey Upon to get rid of something. But the opponent better be tapped out, and you better be in a pretty tight spot if you want to make that play, because you are 2-for-1ing yourself on that exchange. Alright, we got the Sigiled Paladin, double white, which is why we want to go heavy white. You got 15, 16, 18. So 18 of the 24 lands in our deck produce white. And we also have 12 planes, so we can hopefully get this out, on turn 2 a lot of the time. But even a turn 3 play is still pretty good. Like I said earlier, also has first strike, so it can attack through a lot of things, especially if he's getting a shit ton of Exalted triggers. And also is not that bad on defense. 1 Reprisal we already went over. I think I already went over in fairly good detail why tonight the Skyward Eye is in there. Said, a lot of things I see, like, in the game of Magic, you want to be able to use all your resources every turn. or most of your resources. Obviously, you know, you want to hold mana up for shit like God's Willing or removal or whatnot. But you know, if you're just passing your turn with like 5 unspent mana, and turn gets passed to you and you never used it, then you know that's not good. So, just just another mana sink. You know, if you're going to, trigger him, just make sure the coast is clear, or if the coast isn't clear, you don't trigger him. Or if you don't really have anything else better to do that turn, then you just trigger him. Like if you don't plan on playing anything post combat, just do it. Another thing, he makes himself a 5/5, which if you have 2 green, so 2 green and then 2 green, 1 white, and 2 colorless. Actually, no, it's just 2 green and 3 colorless. You can have your 5/5 fight something you don't control. But plays like that, you want to make sure your opponent's tapped out, and you put a lot of pressure on them, so you'll see your opponents tap out a lot against your deck. Brimaz the Furry, we already went over that. All right, Mentor of the Meek. You all know what he does. Whenever a creature 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1 if you do draw a card. So let's count all the creatures. There's 4, 7, 11. Technically Brimaz tokens, so 11.5. The other mentor, so 12.5. Banisher Priest, 15. I'll stop saying 0.5. And that's really it. So out of 24 creatures, 15 will trigger the mentor. So I think that's a fairly good deal. The rest, just just lock something down forever. Obviously, this is pretty horrible against decks that are running God's Willing. But a lot of the decks that are running God's Willing are usually, aside from this deck, they're decks that want to pile white auras on things. So, if you hit something with a bunch of white auras, like a Nimbus Wings or an Armored Ascension, with this arrest, I mean, they're not going to be able to get this arrest off without dropping the rest of their auras. But, in other situations, being able to lock down an Arbor Colossus, locking down an Inferno Titan, something like this on a Shield Druid's not really going to do much. Locking down a Blockworm is really good. So, 3 mana, sorcery speed. I think it's better than trying to just, put some Angelic Edicts in here. There are no Angelic Edicts. Our only enchantment removal is the Everything removal. But I don't really think we need it. Tapping out for 3 sorcery speed is a lot better than tapping out for 5. And we got the Baneslayer Angel. I mean, 1 of Mythic. It shuts down a lot of decks and a lot of cards by itself. And it doesn't really need the Exalted bonuses, but, even better. What's better than the 5/5 flying first strike, lifelink protection from that stuff, Angel? How about if it's a 6/6 or an 8/8? Or, if it's a 8/8 double strike? If it's getting in and drawing you 8 cards. Anyways, on to the Battlegrace Angel. Other Exalted, trying to build an Exalted theme deck or sub-theme. There's only 10 Exalted creatures. But, whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gains lifelink until end of turn. So usually, like, if you're playing against other decks and you're both maintaining your board presence, like you're not fucking with your board and you're not really fucking with theirs for whatever reason, even though we have a lot of resources to do that, you're going to win most races between, the War Monk and the Battlegrace Angel and just the damage output that, you can put out. You're going to win most races. So, I mean, this helps a lot. Like, you go turn 5 Battlegrace Angel and, you can swing with something as silly as an Akrasan Squire with 2 other Squires behind it. So, you're getting all those Exalted triggers. I think what's that? With the 3 Squires and a Battlegrace Angel. So, that's a 5/5 lifelink right there. So, like I said, put all the Exalted creatures you can in the deck. It's Exalted. It's actually pretty good. It's also a 4/4 flyer. Alright, the Panic Cleansing we already went over. Prey Upon, it's good when your opponents are tapped out, or, you have God's Willing protection. Because after you attack and, all your Exalted triggers go off, you can do this post-combat. Your dude who's a lot bigger and, pick something off. You do run a risk of, getting 2-for-1 with cards like these, so I only play 2 but I think it's worth it enough. And also, you know, if a thing already has been given lifelink by Battlegrace Angel, you'll gain the life off that when that creature fights, in addition to the Rhox Warmonks. So, I mean, you know, if you're playing something like a Kiln Fiend deck or a Gutter Snipe deck or just something that just aims to burn you out, you know, dropping a Warmonk's already backbreaking, but then if you, like, prey upon one of their plays, I mean, that's just too much for them to overcome. Speaking of, you know, card draw engines, we actually do have an initial card draw engine in Hunter's Prowess. Till end of turn, target creature gets +3/+3 and gains Trample, which is a big deal. Because you always want to be drawing the cards, but sometimes, you know, you just want to force through that last bit of damage and just end it. So whenever it deals combat damage to a player, draw that many cards. So however much damage you're doing, whether it be 1, 2, 3, 4, 13, that's how many cards you're going to draw. And there are times when you pair it up with Rafiq of the Many, which gets to do double strike. I mean, you'll draw like 15 cards right there. So it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard for a deck to beat that. I mean, we're gonna run both copies because it's that powerful. But you also got to pick your spot. Like, you don't want to just jam this into open mana. You want to be careful about it. You know, very rarely are you gonna just, you know, slam this turn 5. I mean, sometimes you get the opportunity to, but like I said, I would never slam it turn 5 into open mana. I mean, it depends on what mana they have open. Like a single blue, fuck no. Not without God's willing support. If you're going to, you know, throw this down on a creature with 2 toughness and they have red or black up, fuck no. So, you know, just be careful. Rhox Warmonk, why play Bant? This guy's amazing. It's a 3/4 lifelink for 3. And then, you know, when you start getting the exalted buffs with this guy, I mean, you know, you're getting 4. I mean, even if they're chump blocking, I mean, you're gaining like 4, 5, 6 life. Like I said, your board is generally going to be better than their board if nobody has any removal spells. And also, I want to get back real quick, touch back on things like Hunter's Prowess and God's Willing. If you're playing like a heavy token deck, or, you know, something like Spider Spawning, and, you know, they just chump block you every turn, you know, the God's Willing, and to a lesser extent, the Hunter's Prowess will let you punch through that, and hopefully for the win. And then the last actual non-land card in the deck is the last Exalted guy, Rafiq of the Many. He has Exalted, and whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gains double strike until end of turn. So, pretty ridiculous with Hunter's Prowess. I mean, obviously very good with the Rhox Warmonk, just the, you know, turn 3 Monk and the turn 4 Rafiq of the Many, and you didn't play anything else. That's, you know, if they're not blocking, you do 8, you gain 8. If they're blocking, you know, you're still gaining 4. Rafiq is actually pretty good at this dude. I mean, you buff him to a 5/5 double strike. I mean, you know, they got to make a choice. Like, if they don't remove it pre-combat, like, okay, am I going to kill Rafiq, or am I going to kill this guy who's going to do 5 to 10 to me every turn? So that's the shell of the deck. You have the 10 Exalted guys, and we just kind of wanted to have a nice supporting cast around them without being too difficult on the mana. So speaking of the mana, we got 12 plains, 1 island, 5 forests, 3 Seaside Citadels, which gets you all your colors, 1 Azorious Guildgate, and 2 Selesnya Guildgates. So to see, we only have 4 blue cards, the 3 Warmonks and the Rafiq. So we have 1 island, 4 Seaside Citadels, and 1 Azorious Guildgate for that. The 1 of Island, I mean, every now and again it can fuck up your draws. But sometimes, you know, you want to go plains, tap land, and then, you know, island. I mean, this is really the only way, unless you go tap land, that you can play a Warmonk on turn 3. Let's see, is that actually correct? Now you can actually go Seaside to the little forest plains and get 1 on turn 3 also. But this gives you more opportunities to drop it on turn 3, and I really don't think it fucks with you too much when you draw it. I mean, every now and again, you know, you get some weird hand, like 2 forests, an island, and a plains, but, you know, you can't win them all. So let's look at our green guys. It's obviously Rafiq and the Rhox Warmonk are green as well, so there's 4. There's 200 Sprouts, 5/6, Prey Upon, 7/8. And then we have the activated ability on Knight the Skyward Eye, so I don't know, just for shits and giggles, we'll call it, you know, half a green card for each one. So that brings us to 10. And look at that. 5, 8, 9, 10 green sources. And then total white sources, 15, 16, 18, which is 18 out of 24. 75% of our lands produce white. And it looks like, I don't know, 32 out of 45, 44. I guess that's about 75% of our deck is white. So, you know, you can splash these, you know, fairly high impact Bant cards and green cards and not fuck up your mana too much. Like I said, I like to keep it at around, you know, 25% tap lands, which is around 6. I tried it with 8, and, you know, I was having problems being able to play a threat, leave God's Willing up, or, you know, play a threat, draw a card off Mentor, because it's just getting too many fucking tap lands. So I've just changed my philosophy around, like, unless I'm playing some heavy control deck, or, you know, something with just absolutely absurd color requirements, some wacky 5-color brew for fun, I try to keep the tap lands to a minimum, if possible. So anyways, that's the deck. I mean, you can try it out. Like I said, if you don't like the 4 Knights of the Skyward Eyes, I mean, 4 Squadron Hawks, that'd be a nice substitute for them. I think these have better upside. Let's see other things we didn't put in. I don't know, there's not really too much to talk about that we left out. I mean, you know, I could put more green or blue cards in, but like I said, I don't want to mess with the mana. Like, you already kind of have to like go a little bit weird to just accommodate this stuff. So let's focus on the white stuff we left out. If there's anything like really big. Like I said, before that Planar Cleansing was in, like I had a Righteous Blow in, you know, try and get a little bit cute, you know, with your first strikers, but it really wasn't that great. I mean, when it's good, it's really good. Like, you know, you can pick off a Kiln Fiend that's been artful dodged or some shit like that. But when it's bad, it's really bad. Yeah, it's really, you know, we're not gonna play a vanilla soldier. I mean, you could make an argument for playing Snarecasters to, you know, force through an Exalted attack. But then after it does that, I mean, it's still just a 2-1. I think Skyward Eye is still better. And yeah, really, the higher you go, it's not really much use. I already went over, you know, Arrest versus Angelic Edict. And, you know, these big 6 drops, I don't really think this deck needs it. I mean, you know, you could put a Captain to Watch in there. You buff the Squires, Brimaz and his tokens, the Mentor, and that's it. So, I don't know. I don't think this is the right home for him, or her, and her buddies. So, yeah, so this is it. I'll be playing it here in the next coming days, you know, make at least 3 videos, however many games are in those videos, like, you know, who knows, it could be 3 videos, 3 games, it could be 3 videos, 6 games, you know, it depends on me and the opponent, how fast the games go, and whatnot. So, thanks for tuning in, hope I didn't ramble too much, try out the deck, or, you know, just take it, make your own tweaks to it, and hope you have fun. I'll talk to you guys later, and Mega Beast, allow us for you. Take care.